Hey guys, I'm Nick and welcome back to the channel. Or if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe by clicking that big red subscribe button to stay current with all the latest Star Trek news on YouTube. We've rounded out our first 10 episodes of Star Trek Prodigy and I was really impressed with this first chunk of season 1. It feels like an end of season moment in this last episode called A Moral Star Part 2, but we know that season 1 is sort of split in two halves. We've got the first 10 and the second 10 episodes, which we'll be getting on later on this year. But for a first outing into Star Trek Prodigy, I reckon this was a really strong start for the show. We had a good finale episode with the whole diviner searching for the proto-core and understanding his motivations behind wanting that. We saw the rescue of all of the miners on the Tarslamora asteroid, which have all now been rescued and everything. And we've also got a little tease as to what we can expect as a major part of the second half of season 1 coming later on this year, with Vice Admiral Janeway on board the USS Dauntless trying to hunt down Chakotay, who obviously is the original captain of the Protostar. So let's take a look through this last episode in the first half of season 1 of Star Trek Prodigy and see what it had to offer. So we've got Gwyn and the Diviner and Dreadnought heading back to Tarslamora to retrieve the stolen proto-core from the ship. I've got to say, it's kind of cool to see the whole goth Janeway, or corrupted Janeway, in this modified program on board the Protostar. Very out of character for Janeway, but it's sort of a kind of a cool spin on her holo program. And we've got Dahl and the others back on Tarslamora trying to round up and rescue all of the different miners who are all floating in zero G because the shield's gone down and they're need to rescue them before air and gravity and all that sort of thing runs out. I gotta say, I chuckled at the scene between the two miners who, when Dahl came close to them and the Universal Translator kicked in, and for years and years they've never been able to understand each other, and now the Universal Translator's working and they're introducing each other as to what their names are, and they're saying, oh, I've had all these feelings for you for so many years, but I've held them in, and it was kind of nice to kind of see these guys who've obviously been working together for so long, bashing rocks together and whatever, and now having a little emotional moment together. That was kind of cool. It was good to see Roktak using her head to solve the problem with jump-starting the Rev 12. Good to see that she's, good for more than just the heavy labour stuff or whatever. And good to see the little Cation kitty cat there, who we've seen pop up in umpteen different cutaway shots throughout the miners and the asteroid and everything, that the Cation's getting rescued as well. And it turns out our Cation kitty cat is a bit of a badass, with the rousing of all of the miners, ganging up on Dreadnought, who's there trying to get the proto-core, and putting out the claws and slicing his head off. The sweet little kitty cat has definitely got some sharp claws. So it now seems that Dreadnought is no more. He's had his head decapitated from his body, and he's been put down, Terminator style, with the whole red eyes slowly growing dim. Eat your heart out, Sarah Connor. There are a lot of different aliens amongst the miners in this scene, but the only one I recognise is Illurian, old Morn's race from DS9. There seems to be a Illurian in the background of every shot recently in Star Trek. They popped up in the background of DS9 and Discovery and Lower Decks, and there seems to be a Illurian in every crowd. But even though Dreadnought is no more, they still managed to transport the proto-core to the Protostar, and they've got 10 minutes before the Diviner's able to fulfill his plan. I love the fact that I think somebody was talking about this in the comments of last week's video, that they thought that the whole corrupted Janeway thing was a ruse, as it's turned out to be, and that Gwyn has actually programmed Janeway to in fact still be loyal to her. The whole corrupted goth Janeway thing was a bit of a ruse to trick the Diviner, and it's also good to see that hologram Janeway has had some upgrades. She's now getting a bit physical. Janeway is pulling out the security moves and tackling the Diviner to the ground, putting some self-defense tactics there into play. Good to see Janeway getting physical here. I don't think we ever really saw Janeway get too physical at all in Voyager, apart from shooting a phaser. We certainly never saw her engage in any kind of hand-to-hand sort of style stuff or anything like that. So this was sort of like a bit of a, oh wow, Janeway can kick butt with the best of them. So it's fun to see. And finally, we learn the true agenda of the Diviner in terms of what he needs the Protostar for. It turns out that when he told Gwyn that his planet was destroyed and that he and her were the last of their kind, it was sort of a bit of a mistruth, because it turns out that the Diviner is actually from the future. he's come back in time to this particular moment in time where his homeworld isn't destroyed, because what actually happened was after Starfleet made first contact with the Valnacot, something kind of went horribly wrong in terms of the division of the community on his homeworld, where some people wanted to kind of stay more isolationist and other people wanted to reach for the stars more. And there seems to have been some sort of massive civil war or something that's torn the whole civilization apart. And the Diviner blames Starfleet for making first contact in the first place, and that his goal is to destroy Starfleet so they can never make first contact with his people, which is kind of a bit extreme, really. I mean, Starfleet would have never made first contact with the Valnacot if they didn't have technology to head for the stars and had achieved breaking the warp barrier and things like that. So surely the blame is, on them and not really Starfleet, because reaching for the stars and travelling the galaxy and everything would have been a concept that their people would have embraced or not embraced, regardless of whether Starfleet had said hello or not. But he's obviously a pretty messed up dude and he wants to blame somebody apart from himself or his own people. So I guess the scapegoat in this case is Starfleet. And it turns out the Diviner has basically placed a virus of some kind on board the protostar, so whenever it comes in contact with another Federation starship, it corrupts the system within that starship and the ships turn on each other and destroy them or something to that effect, which kind of seems a little bit like a sort of a Borg assimilation kind of thing, where it sort of gets into the system and basically he's trying to take down Starfleet by having all of the ships spread this virus throughout all of Starfleet and therefore destroying it. I love the little finale here between Zero and the Diviner, where Zero comes in. He used to be used as a weapon by the Diviner, as a sort of a torture device or whatever, and to save Dal and Gwyn, Zero frees himself from his little containment pod and exposes himself, so to speak, to the Diviner. And I definitely felt echoes here of like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you've got Indy screaming at Marion, "Don't look, Marion, keep your eyes shut! Don't look at the Ark, Marion, don't look at the Ark!" While all the ghosts are swirling around and everything, and people's faces are melting and exploding and all that sort of stuff. And Dal kind of does the same thing to Gwyn here, where he says, "Don't look at Zero," and tries to get her gaze on him so that she doesn't look at Zero in his true form, because as we know, Medusans, other races cast eyes on a Medusan, it completely drives them mad. So I did definitely see some nice little hints at that Raiders of the Lost Ark scene with the opening of the Ark in this last moment in this episode. But unfortunately, Gwyn catches a glimpse of Zero in Dal's comm badge, and she gets a bit of that madness put into her, and whereas the Diviner is just sort of completely lobotomized, it would seem almost, throughout this act. So it seems like all of our miners, including our little Cation kitty cat, are taking the Rev 12. It's their ship now. They've taken it to flee Tars Lamora and go find a better life for themselves. And at least for now, it seems like the storyline involving the Diviner has come to an end. He's gone completely mad, having cast eyes on Zero, and he's now basically on Tars Lamora, scratching, symbols of the Protocore into the dust. Kind of looks like he's kind of gone the road of Gollum in Lord of the Rings, where he's just sort of, scratching things in the dirt, and he sort of looks a bit like Gollum even in this last couple of frames here. So there's a little bit of a nod to Lord of the Rings there as well. But it seems like Gwyn's going to be okay, because she only caught the reflection of Zero in the comm badge, so she's okay except for her short-term memory, which has been completely wiped. And this kind of poses the problem that she is the only one with the information that the Diviner has put this virus on board the protostar, that if it comes in contact with another Federation ship, it's going to spread this virus, which is going to take down the entire Starfleet. This piece of information has been wiped from her mind, and this is going to obviously play into the second half of season 1, which we're going to get later on this year. I quite like the shot of Dal and Gwyn looking out into space, with Dal coming out of sickbay, having just sort of been given the sort of clean bill of health, I guess, from Zero. It sort of, in some ways, I thought mirrored the end shot of Empire Strikes Back, with Luke and Leia staring out the window of the medical frigate. It sort of seemed very reminiscent of that. Now, even though we didn't get my prediction about Chakotay from last week's video, predicting he would be amongst the rescued miners, come true for this episode, we got an equally interesting conclusion, where we see a Trill Ops officer identify a protostar signature, and we reveal that Admiral Janeway is on board a Federation starship. She's in command. They've been looking for the protostar. They're trying to find Chakotay, and Janeway is leading the mission on board the USS Dauntless. This ship was in an episode of Voyager, Hope and Fear, where an alien had disguised its own ship to look like a Dauntless class ship in the hope that they were going to use this ship to return the Voyager to the Alpha Quadrant. It all turned out to be a ruse, but the alien did disguise this ship as the USS Dauntless. But it seems like the actual Dauntless is now being commanded by Janeway in Prodigy, which is a nice little nod back to that Voyager episode. And they've certainly done a good job of matching the look of the bridge between the Voyager episode and this latest Prodigy episode. Not to mention the external appearance of the starship itself. And the USS Dauntless had a quantum slipstream drive, so I'm guessing this is going to get the Dauntless to the other side of the galaxy or whatever to meet up with the protostar, because the protostar's got the proto drive, which enables it to obviously go incredible distances, and the Dauntless has got the quantum slipstream drive. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. We've obviously got an Andorian first officer, we've got a Trill ops officer, and a Tellarite medical officer in the background of the starship here, captained by Janeway. I thought this was interesting because I knew from some stuff which I'd heard from the Hagemans talking about the first season of Prodigy. We knew that the reveal of the Trill officer and the Andorian officer and so forth that we had revealed with along with Robert Beltran's resumption of his role as Chakotay in the show weren't going to be Chakotay's crew. So now we know that they're not part of Chakotay's original crew on the Protostar. They are Janeway's crew on the USS Dauntless, and they're now got to go and find Chakotay wherever he happens to be. Guys, I really enjoyed this first 10 episode outing of Star Trek Prodigy. I definitely think it's worth watching. For all of you naysayers out there that are saying, oh, I don't want to watch it, it's a kid's show, it's an animation or whatever, no, it's not a kid's show. It might be animated, but animated doesn't just mean a kid's show. This is a show that everybody can enjoy. So guys, let me know what you thought of this final episode of Star Trek Prodigy. What do you think about Janeway, actual Vice Admiral Janeway, heading up the USS Dauntless? How do you think this is going to play into the second half of Season 1 that we're going to get later on this year? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, and also let me know what you thought about this final episode of the season, or midway through the season. Leave a super thanks, guys, if you're able to. It really helps the channel out. Please like and comment, share and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Please check out my merch in the merch store. At the moment there's free shipping, so check out all the cool Star Trek flavoured t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, caps for free shipping for the next couple of days. And I'll see you guys very soon for my next video. I'll catch you then.